Hello everyone and welcome. Today Rain, our Forestcraft player, will be reviewing the new Rise of Bahamut Forestcraft cards. Now without further ado, I'll give the floor to him.
So we're going to start with the Forest class in our card review. So first off, we're going to start with its new legendary, the White Wolf of Eldwood, in 8 cost 4/4 stat rush with a very interesting effect, which is last word. Randomly put one of the highest cost Forestcraft cards, excluding White Wolf of Eldwood, from your deck to your hand at the start of your next turn, and change its cost to 0.
So as we're getting into the Forestcraft cards, we're starting with the legendary, the White Wolf of Eldwood. This card is very interesting as it supports one of the old archetypes that never saw the light in the meta of either before Darkness Evolved or after Darkness Evolved. So this card has Rush and a 4/4 body, which allows it to clear out a body on the turn it comes on, but that's not the most important part, which is the last words, which will activate when this card dies from slamming itself on something. This card's last words randomly put one of the highest cost Forestcraft cards, including Wolf Eldwood, into your deck in your hand, and change its cost to 0. Allows for a more combo-based Forestcraft archetype. Since Forestcraft, although it has a tempo and a PTP variant that are very strong, also has a few strong potential combo cards such as Rose Queen or Silverbolt, which are the main targets for this card's effect. So first of all, for Silverbolt I believe is the highest damage output this card can actually allow, since if you play this card on turn 8 and get a Silverbolt on turn 9 at cost 0, you can have assuming you have 9 hand at that turn, you will be able to play one Silverbolt for 0, which will hit for 9 damage, and another Silverbolt, should you have it, for 9, which will end up dealing 18 damage in one whole turn, which will very probably seal out the game. As for the other card that can combo with this, it would be Rose Queen. Rose Queen's effect turns all of the fairies in your hand into Rose Bursts, and that sets up for lethal more consistently than Silverbolt, I believe, since you only need one Rose Queen in hand or in your entire deck, so it doesn't restrain any of your deck building and requires you to play less Rose Queen or White Wolf of Eldwood. So in the end, it comes down to a choice between Silverbolt's insane burst on turn 9, which will allow you to win a few more matches due to its speed, or Rose Queen's consistency, which can also come in useful, as Rose Queen, you only need to run one Rose Queen in the whole deck to actually make the combo function. So in my opinion, this card can serve as a very interesting card in the meta, as it can serve the same purpose as Seraph in a Forestcraft deck that was based more around control and combo. So in conclusion, I believe this card has potential in a new archetype of Forest that doesn't rely on neither taking control of the tempo nor using Past the Purgatory to secure its victory.
Now moving on to Selwyn's Command, which is a 3 cost spell, a gold rarity Forestcraft card that summons a Skystride Raptor, and hence 8. Then put a Grand Archer Selwyn into your hand and change the cost to 0. The Skystride Raptor is a Storm 2/1 follower.
Selwyn's Command is a spell that summons a 2/1 Raptor with Storm if you play it without its enhance effect, similar enough to Haven's Pinion Prayer. This card allows you to get some extra damage on the life of your opponent, and is one of the only storms this class has, along with Rhinoceros. Its enhance effect allows you to pay 8 to get a Grand Archer Selwyn with cost 0 to your hand for 8 cost, which can be used to lock down dangerous enemy followers that pose a threat to your life, or return low attack followers to hand, such as Goblin Mount Demon, which can ward off your attacks. In my opinion, this card isn't very good in the context of the current Forestcraft decks. The current Forestcraft decks are very tight in space, and only the strongest of the staple cards in the Forest have the place. When we compare this card to its closest cousin, Rhinoceros, the difference in power becomes very obvious, since that card allows you to increase the damage output for each card you've played before, and even allows you to bounce it. So I mean, it's only for the cost of 2 you can deal enormous amount of damage, or even deal lethal in one turn. Meanwhile, this card doesn't do nearly as much. Like, it leaves a 2/1 body, which is weak, just like the damage it does. And for its enhanced effect, it cost is enormous for a card of this level of power, since you're only locking down or bouncing one of your opponent's followers and getting 1 storm. It might have some niche use, such as bouncing back some wards, but I don't believe it'll see much play.
Now, following with Mahes, a gold rarity Forestcraft follower with 6 cost with 5/5 stats. He comes with Ward and Fanfare, deal 2 damage to all enemies if at least 2 other cards were played this turn.
So when we first look at Mahes, the power level of this card looks really high, as it has 6/6 Ward and will even wipe your opponent's followers that are under 2 defense, on top of dealing 2 damage to life. Now, as we look at this card, it's very obvious that its main effect is to lock down aggro or field swarms, as it can very well wipe out one of the Temple Forest or PTP Forest's worst matchups, mid-range swords main win con, which is Otohime's and her bodyguards. Since on top of wiping your opponent's board for 2 damage and dealing damage to face, it will even leave a ward on field, which leaves no value for the player that played Otohime. Now, as for this card's role in the meta, I think it will be just as I said, a perfect counter to Otohime. However, as to the playability of this card, it remains to be seen, as its effect contests with a lot of powerful cards at 6 cost or 5 cost, such as Crystalia Tia or Elf Knight Cynthia. This card's effect, while powerful and game-winning versus mid-range sword, can be somewhat useless against some matchups, such as Dimension Shift Rune or Alana Haven, as they can just shrug off the damage that it deals. All in all, I think this card has a lot of potential in the meta, as Temple Forest, it barely or not even has any negative matchups, does go even with mid-range sword, and this card might even tip the scales in their favor, since it is a board wipe that clears out mid-range sword main win con.
Next, we have Elf of the Gemstone, a gold rarity Forestcraft card with 5 cost for a 3/4 body. Her ability is whenever an ally follower is coming to play, give it Rush.
So this card has an active effect on field, since when you play a follower it gives you Rush, but let's be honest here, it's pretty useless. On top of being a high priority target, it has a 3/4 body, which is really easy to kill. It only gives Rush, which also doesn't give much value since your deck is full of fairies, and that's not gonna do much. Whatever that's not a fairy, it either already has Rush, like Tia and Eve, or you're gonna evolve it, such as Elven Princess Mage or Cynthia. So in the end, the Rush effect isn't too useful anywhere in any kind of deck of Forest, and I would never craft nor keep this card ever.
Moving on to silvers, we have Crystalia Lily, which is a 2 cost 2/2 follower, which was an enhanced ability of 6 costs that transformed enemy followers into a snowman.
Crystalia Lily is a 2 cost 2/2, which is never too bad, as a 2 cost body can always hold its own. However, the enhanced ability makes it more interesting, as it can transform any enemy follower into a snowman. This makes it interesting because you can transform any huge follower that's causing trouble for you, or any ward follower for 6 cost when you play this card. Basically, you would use this card to remove big threats, and basically turn whatever that's threatening you to a snowman. However, in my opinion, this card's enhanced effect is way overcosted. 6 cost is just way too much for a simple transform into a snowman. So, considering what Forest can do at 6 cost, which is Cynthia, Tia, all these dangerous things, or even the Dance of Death that can be a better removal than this card, honestly, I wouldn't run this card, since it's simply a removal that gives you a small body. In the end, it's worse than, for example, Call of the Void from Shadow that got power creeped out.
Next off, we have Pegasus Elf, a 5 cost 3/3 follower Silver Rarity Forestcraft card with a fanfare effect of changing a full enemy follower's defense to 1. Interesting enough, her evolve effect is deal 1 damage to an enemy follower, but she does not get full evolve stats.
Picks itself with the interesting fanfare ability of changing your opponent's follower defense to 1 has already an interesting fanfare ability on its own, as it can allow your fairies or Mei to snipe down huge enemy followers very easily. However, her evolve ability can be very interesting as well, since it allows you, should you not have a Mei or a fairy to trade onto said follower of which defense got changed to 1, you could always use the ability of evolve deal 1 damage to an enemy follower to kill that follower. In my opinion, this card has a lot of potential, as it serves as a removal that can have a lot of extra value should it be used in a good situation. For example, you're transforming one of your biggest opponent's followers into a 1 defense and then sniping it with Mei. On top of evolving this, that would be pretty much a 3 for 1. This card allows for us to gain some insane value on turn 5, which it could already gain with Tia, but it could be an interesting tech as a 5 cost.
We also have Lionel Elf Prince, a 5 cost 2/2 follower of Silver Rarity for Forestcraft. His fanfare effect is choose a Forestcraft in your hand that costs 4 play point or less, and change its cost to 0.
Right, so this card is a 5 cost 2/2, does not have a very big body when you put it on, but obviously its purpose is to reduce the cost of one of your cards in your hand to 0 cost, should it be 4 cost or under. And that allows you for way more combos on this consecutive or the turn where you're playing this card. As prime targets for this card, you could probably have, for example, Elven Princess Mage, who could be played alongside this card for 0 and evolved in order to give you more combo potential with 2 free fairies this turn and give you a good board control with a 2/2 and a 4/5 on field. You could also change the cost of cards such as Rhinoceros or Ancient Elf to cost 0 in order to perform better damaging combos with Rhinoceros and to end the game with the aggressive push that this card gives you. However, in my opinion, this card is slightly understated, as it is 2/2 for 5 cost is very weak, and you're gonna minus your hand really fast and run out of steam even faster than you would have had already. This card is a very powerful combo card, however, it falters in taking control of the board in any way, since at turn 5 this is a very weak play unless you have an Elven Princess Mage in your hand, contrarily to Tia on turn 5, which will guarantee you a huge board presence. And this card will probably see some play or form in a combo deck for fairy somewhere.
Moving on to the bronze cards, we first have Felper Kitten, a 1 cost 1/1 Forestcraft follower. Her fanfare effect is gain plus 1/1 if at least 2 other cards were played this turn.
This card is very straightforward. It gives you 1/1 if you played this 2 or more cards this turn. Basically, it's a 2/2 should you play it along with 2 other fairies on turn 3. However, I believe this card to be very weak, as it doesn't do too much outside of gaining 1/1 and requires a combo, contrarily to other cards at 1 cost which are way more important, such as Water Fairy, which nets you a fairy, which in the long run gives you more value. Elf Child Mei, no need for introductions, deal 1 damage to a random enemy follower. Nature's Guidance bounces back all the combo cards that you need. Or Fairy Circle, that allows you to generate 2 fairies to even combo further with your cards. So in general, I feel like this card would maybe find its place in an aggressive deck, but it's a slightly weak card for a 1 cost in Forest, in my opinion.
Next, we have Entangling Winds, a 1 cost Forestcraft bronze rarity spell, which gives the following effect: given enemy follower -10/-0 until the end of turn, with a 5 cost enhance to destroy said follower instead.
Now, putting aside the slightly questionable art of this card, we could talk about the effect, which is give an enemy follower -10 until the end of turn. This allows you to disable the basically disable the attacking power of a follower until the end of turn, and allow you all of your followers to just slam on that follower to kill it. For 1 cost, this card doesn't do too much and just allows you to trade more favorably. In minuses, you want to trade better, which doesn't look too much worth it to me. As for its enhanced cost, destroy a follower. I would rather use something that gives me an extra effect, such as Execution, which can even destroy Alana on top of it, or Dance of Death, which deals 2 damage and is most likely the better option.
Next off, we have Forest Spirit, a Forestcraft bronze rarity 3 cost 3/2 follower, which has last words, put a Woodkin curse in your hand.
Forest Spirit has a very conventional stats for a 3 cost of 3/2. Basically, it allows you to put a bit more pressure as a 3 attacks in a 2, but it's easy to trade it off. However, it has the last words of put a Woodkin curse in your hand, which allows you to trade easier onto other followers on the following turns where this thing has died. As for its use, it's not a very bad card. However, it competes with, again, some of the more important cards in a forest deck, which do a lot at 3 cost. For example, Ancient Elf, which leaves an enormous body on field for your opponent to deal with, and is very difficult to contest with. So I do not believe this card will see play. However, it should be very useful in Arena.
Now we have Forest Gygas, a 7 cost 1/7 follower of bronze rarity for Forestcraft. It has Ward and Fanfare gain plus X, X being equal to the number of cards in your hand.
So Forest Gygas is in a 7 cost 1/7 ward that can become way bigger as it gains attack with the number of cards in your hand, and can be evolved for more defense. We can easily compare this to Sword's front guard general, as it has a similar amount of defense, but is weaker in exchange for the last words of summoning a 2/3 ward. However, this card does not have this, and is easier to remove, as a simple removal such as Dance of Death can simply take him out of the question. All in all, I think this card can be used in a budget deck or an arena deck effectively. However, I believe it has too much competition in amazing cards in Forest, such as Crystalia Tia, Ancient Elf, to ward off enemy attacks.
Thank you for watching. I hope you are all having a nice holiday.